Back to Fox and Friends, the cartel now reportedly working with Chinese snakehead gangs to smuggle Chinese nationals into the U.S. as encounters with illegal immigrants from China have skyrocketed over 4,000% since 2021. Not to mention the 300,000 migrants that the Biden administration is allowing to fly into our country using the controversial CBP-1 app. Here with reaction, Executive Director at the Center for a Secure Free Society, Joseph Humire. Joseph, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's talk about the Chinese and Latin America and our open border. Tell us what's happening and why we should be concerned. That increase in number is astounding.
Well, good morning, Rachel. Well, first of all, I think that number, what that number represents is a convergence that's happening on our southern border between international, transnational criminal organizations, international terrorist organizations, and the facilitators, the middlemen that run the logistics to make all that move, especially as it moves to the southern border. The second point, Rachel, on that is that, there's a lot of discussion, especially here in Washington, about separating the Chinese criminal apparatus that's involved in fentanyl, that's involved in human smuggling, from the Chinese government. That's certainly what the CCP wants to have as a talking point, but you can't separate that. I mean, it's not like China is New Zealand and these criminals are coming from Europe. When you talk about criminals coming from China, they absolutely are linked to the CCP for one specific reason, because of the banking system. They all use the Chinese state-controlled, in many cases state-owned banking system to be able to move the illicit money and illicit funds from their illicit activities. And so I think that it falls within the doctrine of what China calls unrestricted warfare, which they include criminal organizations as part of that warfare to attack the United States.
Yeah, by the way, I had Joseph on my podcast this past week. It was one of the most enlightening conversations I've ever had on a podcast. Encourage everyone to watch it. And that was one of the most interesting parts. You said in the past, people would launder money through Latin American banks. And now in Latin America, they're laundering money. The cartels are laundering their money through Chinese banks, something I had not thought about. And this connection is very important to make. So what do you think the Chinese are doing in America? What is your greatest fear? I mean, you know everything about national security and security in Latin America and what's coming through our border. What worries you the most?
So what keeps me up at night isn't necessarily the criminals and terrorists, and that's bad enough, frankly. That is very concerning, alarming. I think our national security apparatus has to do something about that. But what really keeps me up at night is the professional military subversive actors, which are essentially agents of chaos that could be coming across and probably are coming across our southern border, and not just from China, but from Iran, from Russia, from Cuba, from Venezuela, from every enemy of the United States that wants to do us harm, because these are actors that not only can carry out criminal and terrorist operations, but they could actually poison your food and water supply. They can learn how to shut down your electrical grid. They can radicalize and empower agitprop communities, basically people like Black Lives Matter, Antifa. You could put those on steroids. These are folks that go into other countries and create chaos. China, Russia, and Iran has these agents, these subversive actors, and I'm worried that those are the ones that are coming across our southern border, because it only takes a handful of them to create a lot of damage.
Yeah, I don't understand why our government is not as concerned. I want to talk about this because there are Venezuelan gangs, the Tren de Aragua. They've set up shop at our U.S. border. They're coming across the border. I spoke with Congressman Troy Nehls, and he told me that several years ago, he got intel from Border Patrol that our intel agencies knew that Nicolas Maduro was emptying the prisons. He sent a letter asking them to verify that, and they never responded. You know Latin America so well. Do you believe that he emptied his prisons and that those are some of the people that are coming through?
No, absolutely. That's not any news for anyone that's been following Venezuela for the last several years. There's a few things that I think the audience really needs to understand about Tren de Aragua. The first is it's the fastest growing transnational criminal organization in the world. Only 6 years ago, they only had a presence in 2 countries in South America, Venezuela, its home base, and its neighbor, Colombia. Fast forward 6 years, and they're now present in at least 10 countries throughout the Western Hemisphere, including the United States. I've never seen a criminal organization grow that fast. Not even the Mexican cartels expanded that fast. The second point to that is they've already destroyed South America. The Tren de Aragua has attacked and killed police officers. They've set up sex trafficking, human trafficking, and prostitution rings. They've basically taken over Venezuelan communities in Peru, in Ecuador, in Colombia, in Chile. So they've pretty much destroyed South America. In 2021, they started to move north. Why did they start to move north? It was because the Venezuelan government, the regime of Nicolas Maduro, created the transportation mechanisms. He created the logistics to start pushing north. Both national airlines, Conviasa, which was once a sanctioned airline, would fly more flights to Mexico than any other place in the world, shuttling these migrants. Two, they started to create the financing mechanism for many of the NGOs along the Darien Gap, which was once an uncrossable border between Colombia and Panama, and it's now pretty much a bridge between Colombia and Panama, where many of these Venezuelan migrants are passing through. And then the last point, Rachel, go back to 2011. In 2011, the Venezuelan government stood up something called the Ministry of Prisons, right? And in the Ministry of Prisons, what it essentially did was handed over the prisons to the prisoners. They created something called pranatos, which actually existed before in 2007. And the pranatos was essentially like the warden of a prison, but that pranato would be a prisoner. It would be a prison gang leader that would be in charge of the order of that prison. So they created that system, and then they used that system to weaponize it and to, as you said, empty out their prisons and send them all throughout the Americas and more recently to the United States.
Well, if you want more on this conversation, and it's very deep, you can go to my podcast, From the Kitchen Table, with Joseph Humire. We talk about why Latin America is in our neighborhood, and it is our neighborhood, and it affects us directly. By the way, China operating in conjunction with Venezuela. So great episode. Thank you so much for joining us again, Joseph. Always so enlightening.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.